Here you go. A full voiceover script, written straight through in paragraphs. No headings, built for pacing and curiosity. Have you ever had someone's face appear in your mind for absolutely no reason at all? You're doing dishes, driving to work, lying in bed, trying to fall asleep, and suddenly there he is again. Not because you texted, not because you saw a photo, because anything happened. He just shows up and you brush it off the first time. The second time you laugh a little. But by the 10th time, the 15th time, the 30th time this week, you start to wonder what is actually going on inside your own head. Is this normal? Is this obsession? Is this love? Or is this something your mind is trying to tell you that you haven't been willing to hear yet? Here's the truth almost nobody talks about. When someone occupies your mind repeatedly, without effort, without invitation, it is never random. Your brain does not waste energy on nothing. It is not designed to loop on meaningless data. If a person is showing up in your thoughts every single day, your subconscious has already made a decision about them long before your conscious mind caught up. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly what is happening psychologically, biologically, emotionally, when a certain someone refuses to leave your mind alone. But stay with me until the end, because thing number 4 is the one most people never expect, and it might explain feelings you've had for months, but could never quite put into words. Let's start with something most people get completely wrong. They assume that thinking about someone constantly means they are simply obsessed or clingy or too invested. But real psychology tells a very different story. The brain doesn't replay images or memories of people who mean nothing. It replays what it considers unfinished, important, or unresolved. Think about it this way. You don't randomly remember the name of a stranger who passed you on the street 3 weeks ago, but you do remember in vivid detail the words of someone who hurt you, or excited you, or made you feel something you couldn't quite explain. Your brain is not a random image generator. It's a filing system built entirely around emotional significance. And when someone keeps appearing on repeat, that is your mind quietly telling you, this matters, pay attention. So if you've been wondering why his face, his voice, even the way he laughs, keeps surfacing in your thoughts at the most unexpected times, understand this. You are not doing anything wrong, and you are definitely not crazy. Your mind is simply responding to signals that your logical brain hasn't fully processed yet. And that's exactly where our first truth begins. The first thing happening is something psychologists call the mere exposure effect combined with something even deeper, pattern imprinting. Every time you interact with someone, even briefly, your brain records dozens of tiny data points. His tone of voice, the way he paused before answering a question, the way his eyes moved when he was listening to you. None of this is conscious. You don't sit there thinking, let me memorize his mannerisms. It happens automatically, in the background, the same way your brain automatically remembers the layout of your childhood home without you trying. Over time, if enough of these tiny data points accumulate, your brain starts to treat this person as a recognizable pattern, something familiar, something safe, something worth returning to. And here's the fascinating part. Once your brain builds a pattern around someone, it doesn't need a reason to bring that pattern back up. It does it automatically, almost like a song stuck in your head. That's why he can appear in your thoughts during a random moment that has nothing to do with him. Because your brain isn't choosing to think about him on purpose. It's simply running a background process, replaying a pattern it has already decided is meaningful. This is one of the very first signs that someone has embedded themselves into your subconscious, whether you intended it or not. But here's where it gets even more interesting. And this is where a lot of people start connecting dots they never noticed before. The second thing happening is emotional anchoring. This is different from simple memory. Emotional anchoring means your brain has linked a specific feeling, comfort, excitement, safety, even nervous energy to the thought of this person. So it's not that you're thinking about him randomly. It's that some part of your day, some emotion you experienced, triggered a memory tied to him. Maybe you felt a little lonely, and your brain, searching for comfort, pulled up the memory of a conversation that made you feel understood. Maybe you felt excited about something good happening in your life, and your brain instinctively wanted to share that excitement with someone. And his face appeared because some part of you associates him with celebration, with support, with being truly seen. This is why people often say things like, I don't even know why I thought of him just now. Nothing reminded me of him. But something did. It just wasn't external. It was internal, an emotional cue your conscious mind didn't register, but your subconscious absolutely did. Now, here's where I need you to really pay attention because this next part is the part people underestimate the most. If thinking about someone constantly were simply about liking them, that would be simple, straightforward, almost boring. But human psychology is rarely that simple, and neither is this. Because the third thing happening ties directly into how your brain processes emotional risk. And it explains why some of the people who occupy our minds the most are not always the ones who are the easiest to be around. The third thing happening is something called incompleteness bias, more formally known in psychology as the Zeigarnik effect. This is one of the most powerful, most underrated forces behind why someone lingers in your mind. Studies have shown again and again that the human brain remembers unfinished tasks and unresolved situations far more vividly than completed ones. Waiters, for example, have been shown to remember unpaid orders with striking accuracy. But the moment the bill is paid, the memory fades almost instantly. Your brain treats unresolved emotional situations exactly the same way. If there is unfinished business between you and him, an unanswered question, an unclear boundary, a moment neither of you fully addressed, a connection that never got the closure it needed, your brain will not let it go. It will keep circling back again and again, trying to complete what feels incomplete. This is exactly why the people who confuse us the most, the ones we can't quite read, the ones who send mixed signals or pull away right when things start feeling real, are often the ones who occupy our minds the longest. Not because they're better, not because they're more lovable, but because your brain hates loose ends and it will keep reopening the file until it finds resolution. And this is where I have to pause and ask you something, because I want you to actually think about your own situation for a second instead of just listening passively. Ask yourself honestly, is there something unresolved between the two of you? A conversation that ended too soon? A feeling neither of you said out loud? A moment where things felt like they were building towards something and then suddenly stopped? Because if there is, that unresolved thread is very likely the reason he keeps appearing in your thoughts, whether you consciously realize it or not.